Welcome to the Talking the Line podcast, presented to you by Talking the Line Sports Media, giving you our best insights and analysis so you can rake in some cold hard cash on your next sports bet. Now sit on back, open up your mind, and let's cash some tickets. We can't thank you enough for joining us. We hope you enjoy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, degenerates, LA Rams fans, fans of the NFL Shield, gamblers, NFL gamblers, fantasy football players, everyone I might have missed, far and wide. Welcome in to episode number 107 of the Talking the Line podcast, and as always, thank you so much for taking a few moments out of your day to come and kick it with the crew on this beautiful Friday, August 20th, 2021. Now, I know you saw the title. I know you know we're talking LA Rams today. I know you know we got plenty of other banter and nonsense to get to in between. But before we do that, please take a few moments to smash that subscribe button on whatever platform you are currently ingesting the Talking the Line podcast on. If you are watching on YouTube, might as well hit that notification bell as well so you never miss the start of a live show or any additional TTL crew content dropping. But if you are listening to the audio recorded version on your favorite podcast directory, make sure you hit it there as well if you haven't already, as we do release the audio of every episode after every live show is over. Next item up on the docket, if you could find it in your heart, you got a couple extra seconds, be so kind and hit that like button, leave us a comment, leave us a rating, hop in the live chat. If you are watching live, we cannot tell you how much we appreciate it when you do, and it only helps us make Talking the Line Sports Media bigger and better for each and every one of you. Last, but certainly not least, head on over to this episode's description where you will locate the Talking the Line link tree. Within that link tree, you will find the talkingtheline.com website, all of the crew's social content, and additional content as well. So social platforms and additional content. I apologize. So you can consume all of that however and whenever you please. Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful gambling people, NFL fans, LA Rams fans, I am your humble and far from perfect host, Colt 45 Soroka. Man enough to admit my mistakes here or there when I have them, and yeah, from once in a while, we'll fumble over some words, but we'll still get the job done here. We got an absolutely loaded episode to bring you guys today. We are now officially 20 days away from the start of the NFL season. We will be cashing gridiron tickets before you know it, but we're still going to be bringing you the NFL special editions, getting prepared best we can. All that being said, I keep saying we, but you keep hearing me. So I got to bring in the second half of that aforementioned we, the co-host of the Talking the Line podcast, a young man who is absolutely thrilled with where his White Sox currently sit. A young man who is absolutely enthralled with the news coming out of the Cheesehead factory, that being Green Bay, Wisconsin. Day by day, it seems to look better and better, and a Super Bowl run might just be on the horizon. Don't ask him about it, because you'll be sitting here listening for about 2.5 hours. So without further ado, let's bring him on in. The man, the myth, the degenerate gambling legend himself, Mr. Riley RMags Magnuson. Partner, how you doing over there today, pal?
My man, I am doing fantastic. It is Friday. We're feeling good. The weather's nice outside here in the Windy City. The sunshine is shining on the inside. We've got a hell of a show cooked up today. I mentioned it's Friday. I've got my softball game tonight. Some playoff softball. Trying to get myself into that right mindset, my man. Keep my 1,000 batting average intact. It might be, I missed a few games, but 1,000 batting average through the regular season.
Are we potentially seeing the return of Shohei Magnuson tonight?
Yeah, no fucking kidding.
Okay, absolutely. So taking the bump and ripping at least 3 dingers tonight. You heard it here first on the Talking the Line pod.
Of course.
Absolutely.
10 strikeouts.
Well, hey.
That'll be a feat.
Hey, you also said beautiful weather here in the Windy City. Not too bad.
We haven't checked in a couple hours, I guess.
We typically keep things closed up here. Don't want extra light flood in. But nice little bit of frogginess here this morning.
Sure was.
So you could cut that fog with a knife. But hey, nonetheless, you also mentioned we're bringing the sunshine inside.
Always.
It doesn't matter. You know the vibes that come when you tune into the Talking the Line podcast. So don't worry. We got it covered. If it may be cloudy in your location, not anymore. We got rays of sunshine coming through whatever device you are watching our smiling faces on this morning. All right. With all that being said, enough of this damn nonsense. We got a lot to talk about today. We got a loaded show. As always, we will have the 4 segments. We will go through the entire team. We will go through the schedule, the full betting preview, and then start, stash, or pass our best fantasy advice. Now, we did switch up the kind of format a little bit yesterday, adding the 2 teams, and we're going to stick to some of those cuts. So it's going to look a little different. The team breakdown, obviously, I'll start things off. I'll start things off both times with the key losses, and then, we'll flip that back around. I apologize. So we'll do it how we've been doing it. I'll do the key losses for offense. Key additions will be Mags on the offensive side of the ball, and then we'll flip that for the defense. But then I'll just run through quickly the 2020 stats from last year, go quickly through the lineup, and then give you my opinion as far as the 2020 outlook, kick it over to Mags, and then we'll get right into the defense. That way we'll kind of skip some time through there because, we just dish out enough of our opinions in all the other segments as well. So the schedule as well, we won't break it down week by week. We'll break down the schedule week by week when we do it as well in the betting preview. So we don't do it twice. That way you get not only the matchups, some of the rest, but also the game totals and the spreads that we're going to be seeing. So knock it all out, killing about 5 birds with one stone there. So we move that all there. We'll just give you our predictions for the Rams season in their schedule preview. Then we'll give you everything betting preview, season win total, additional value that we found, everything in between like we usually do. And then start, stash, pass is going to be exactly the same. So no changes there, but a few minor little tweaks and things here or there, but we are going to be rocking right through it. So with all of that officially being said, it is time for today's team of the day to step up on the podium and get ready for their season preview. Enter the Los Angeles Rams. First things first, before we start here, need to get something off my chest.
Okay.
This is my favorite NFC team outside of my Chicago Bears.
Okay.
I have very high expectations and hopes for the Rams this season.
Sure.
And I will try my best to analyze as unbiasedly and as an NFL analyst as I can because I am extremely excited for this Rams season.
Yeah.
But I also think you can be excited from an NFL analyst standpoint or just an NFL fan standpoint.
Yeah, I don't think this team's damn good and their roster's solid, so I don't think you'll be too I don't think you'll be too biased.
So,
here.
Just a brief disclaimer if I get a little too homery, but they are my second favorite team in the NFC. That all being said, let's kick things off. First segment of the day.
Ooh. I am coffeeless at the moment.
Coffeeless at the moment, but I'm not.
I pounded it earlier.
If you guys are not, hey, cheers to you as well. You're looking beautiful out there on this beautiful Friday.
Got a little, and I'd say
a swig of Joe.
Extra half hour of sleep last night, so the 1 cup did me nicely. As opposed to the 1.5, 2 that I usually go for.
I'm just a 4 or 5 cup a day guy, regardless of if it's Sunday through Sunday. I'm just rocking and rolling. So back to the show. First segment of the day, the full team breakdown for these Los Angeles Rams. All right, my friends. We're getting into it. First things first, like I said, we'll talk about key losses and additions, and then I'll run through all of the 2020 stats, talk about the lineup, and then we'll give you our predictions. So, key losses, offensive side of the ball for the Rams going into 2021. Obviously, some names to note, some names that you don't really need to worry about. Names to note, Jared Goff, quarterback, out of town, but we will talk about him, and I think that is a very good thing that he is out of town, in my opinion. Blake Bortles, quarterback, he is also donezo, both starting and backup QB out of town. Austin Blythe, big name you need to know about. We talked about him a few episodes back. Center is out of town as well. Gerald Everett goes and joins the Seahawks as a tight end, opening the door wide for Tyler Higbee this year, who I also am extremely high on. Josh Reynolds, wide receiver, looked like he was primed to break out last year and just couldn't do it. They sent him to the Titans. I think he'll have some success in that offense, no doubt in my mind. And then Malcolm Brown, running back, they sent him to the Finns, and after that Cam Akers injury here, I am sure they are wishing they would not have made that move.
Right.
But that does it for all of the losses. Not too many. Some big names, obviously, 6 in general. But as my partner will tell you, they were able to backfill those, and I think they have plenty of success with these names he's about to drop down.
Sure. This list isn't all too long, but as you mentioned, they are some key players nonetheless. Name that pops off to everyone. Don't have to go too deep into him. Matt Stafford got him in a trade with the Lions, shipped Jared Goff on out. Stafford is going to be the quarterback week 1. They also brought in handful of receivers out of the free agent class and the draft class. Deshaun Jackson, wide receiver. He's going to be, if healthy, possibly a nice little factor here, but I say if healthy because that's the key factor. Last 2 seasons, he did not play even close to a full season, so we'll see how that goes for the Rams this year, and that about does it for free agency and trades. Out of the draft, they took 3 wide receivers throughout all 7 rounds. Second round, wide receiver Tutu Atwell out of Louisville. He could be a key factor possibly this year. If not, he should be down the road here for the next decade of Rams football. 4th round, they picked up Jacob Harris out of UCF, also a receiver. 5th round, they made a little bit of a switch, brought in Jake Funk, a running back out of Maryland. And then in the 7th round, Ben Skowronok. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right, but he is out of Notre Dame. So I would say at least one of these guys might have some trouble making this roster, but nonetheless, they really invested into this offense in the draft, especially that wide receiver room, partner.
Yeah, I definitely say Ben Skowronek is somewhere right around in that ballpark.
Okay.
That's a good shot by you, no question at all.
Sure.
But yeah, they did make some good additions. Obviously, free agency and wasn't the biggest additions,
Right.
maybe by quantity.
Sure.
But as far as quality, you obviously bring in Stafford, and then I think Deshaun could have some sort of an impact here. But you mentioned it, biggest X factor is going to be him staying healthy this year. That all being said, let me give you some key 2020 stats, and then I'll give you the 2021 starting or projected starting offensive lineup. Then we'll talk about some projections. As far as 2020 goes, I do think we see a lot of improvement upon most of these numbers. A lot of these numbers were down because of the quarterback play of Jared Goff. His play only declined 2018, 2019, 2020.
Right.
It never improved it. It never stayed at a median. He was shipped out of town because Sean McVay did everything with him that he possibly could. Enter Matt Stafford. I think that these numbers improve. They averaged 5.5 yards per play last year. They rushed the ball at a 44.25% clip, passed on 55.75% of their plays. Across the board, 66.20%. We saw John Walford come in a few plays, or a few games here or there. He actually played really well when he did. Third down conversion was at 41.37%, so definitely think that improves this year. And then the red zone, they only scored at 57.81%. With that high-powered McVay offense and some of the crazy things that he can do with pre-snap motion, play action, there should be no reason that they should be north of 65% in the red zone. As a matter of fact, because of Jared Goff, they were forced to run the ball 10 yards and in, not even the full red zone. 10 yards and in, they couldn't even really get anything going on those quick slant routes. So I think that improves massively here this year. That's one of Matthew Stafford's key things. Those no-look passes are what he really succeeds in the red zone. But that all being said, quickly through the lineup, and then we'll talk just a little projections here. As far as the offensive line goes, looks to be very solid this year. Rob Havenstein on the right side, Bobby Evans next to him, right guard. Austin Corbett, center coming in. David Edwards, left guard, opposite of him, and then Andrew Whitworth, the old man left tackle. I believe he is 38 now, but still playing at an extremely high level. On the outside of them, sometimes the left, sometimes the right, sometimes blocking, sometimes catching passes. Tight end Tyler Higbee. Think he has a huge season this year. Gets Gerald Everett out of the way, and if you did have him in 2020 in fantasy, he closed out the year beautifully. So I think he picks up right where he left off, and we see a ton of production from him, especially with a quarterback that likes to target tight ends and Matt Stafford. Wide receiver room, I think we see uptick in production from all of these guys if there was a mediocre fall off last year. Van Jefferson on the far outside, I was really high on him last year, kind of got let down, but I think he is definitely going to see some improvements here in year 2. Cooper Kupp, my man, out of the slot. Little Cooper Kupp, he is an absolute monster. He just needs to stay healthy. I think he will. Had obviously a little bit of ACL injuries, stuff like that, but I think he'll be fine coming in here in 2021. And then Robert Woods on the far outside, I also think he is going to be a dog this year. Finally gets a guy who consistently put the ball on him on some of those deep passes where he rips the top off the defense. Last but not least, some of the depth wide receivers, as far as the wide receivers go. Deshaun Jackson, you talked about him, has to stay healthy. We've already said that multiple times. And then Tutu Atwell, everybody talks about him as being severely undersized coming out of Louisville, but I think he could make some serious impacts in the league. He is a speedster and a half, and I think a lot of people are overlooking him, but not Sean McVay.
Right.
Then there's some question marks as far as the running back room goes. Obviously, Cam Akers gets hurt, tears his Achilles. That opens the door for Darrell Henderson. Henderson had a really solid season last year. I think he has another solid season here. And then it's just really muddy outside of that. It could be Otis Anderson, Raymond Kalis, Jake Funk, or Xavier Jones that backs up Henderson. We don't really know right now. What I do know is Henderson should be very solid, and we'll talk about it in fantasy. I think he has some definite value there as well. Walford backing up Stafford. Stafford coming in. I think Stafford is going to light it up this year. He has a beautiful offensive mind in Sean McVay. Kevin O'Connell being right there as well doesn't hurt. We'll talk about the full coaching staff shortly. Let me stop blabbing, man. You guys know all about the lineup. You know my thoughts. I'm extremely high on him, partner. How you feeling about the 2021 LA Rams?
Yeah, I can't say too many bad things about it. I'm interested to see what some of these depth receivers do. I am very, very excited to see what Robert Woods does. He's been really solid the last couple of years, I think, and obviously we'll talk about him later in fantasy, but I think he is the guy that is the prime candidate for a massive increase in target share, catches, receiving yards, and he's going to look very, very solid at the end of the year when it all shakes out as far as the top receivers in the league. You're a little higher than I am on Tyler Higbee. I do like Tyler Higbee. It sounds like you're a little bit higher than I am, but I do think he's going to have a solid year, especially without Gerald Everett there. And then as far as the running back room goes, obviously losing Cam Akers hurts, but I really, really think Henderson is going to have a solid year. And, you know, this offense has kind of proved that they can make it work with just about anybody in that backfield. So even if anything happens to Henderson, knock on wood, I think they'll be all right. Obviously, it's not ideal, but like I said, Sean McVay has proved that even with Jared Goff under center, that it doesn't really matter who's at running back. They're going to figure out how to make him productive. So obviously, we hope Henderson is all right because, like you said, the depth is a little concerning, but I think they'll be all right. And then Atwell, I mentioned it at the top. I think I'm right in line with you. I'm not sure what we see from him this year, but I think the next few years we're going to really start to see him pop off and make an impact here. And then, this offensive line coming back again here. I'm pretty excited to see what they do. Jared Goff was terrible under pressure, and Matt Stafford's just the total opposite of that. So even if this offensive line has any type of struggles, Matt Stafford should make up for it. So, like I said, Robert Woods is the one guy that I think is going to be the biggest benefactor of Matt Stafford coming in here. So I've got nothing else bad to say as far as the entire offense goes, my man.
All right. Well, hey, I mean, I have said it. I said it on the Lions episode. I've said it when we were only doing a newsletter, when we didn't even do a doggone podcast. Jared Goff gets this look in his eyes when he is totally confused.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's happening, and he totally forgot to put on his football pants for Sunday action. You can see it every single time, and unfortunately for Lions fans, I think we're going to see that a lot. And that face where he found himself was the demise for the Rams so many times last year. Now, they had a winning record. You definitely can write home about that, but at the same time, I think they can be, and I know they can be so much better with better than mediocre quarterback play.
Right.
And Matt Stafford brings that to the table.
Right, and we talked about it with the Lions. We think the Lions are going to be absolutely terrible. If you still kept these quarterbacks in the same situations, the Lions would still be bad, but we'd be talking about them in a much nicer light. Maybe a live dog here or there can snap off some teams because Stafford elevates his play and elevates that team. Now you switch the roles here. This offense has such a sky-high ceiling compared to what they had the last couple of years. It's not even funny, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final closing thought before I give you the rankings and we switch on over to the defensive side of the ball. You can tell me all the Matt Stafford stats you want, how he hasn't been good, how he hasn't got any playoff wins, how he hasn't done this, hasn't done that. I don't really care. Every one of his head coaches have been a defensive mind. Now he has one of the dopest offensive minds in the NFL in Sean McVay. Oh, by the way, mind you, is my Coach of the Year candidate.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that in the betting preview. So for the rankings, actually every unit from the quarterbacks to the head coach, offense, defense, everything, every single unit, this is the only one per SFA to fall in the top 11 in every single category. Their quarterbacks ranked number 8. Obviously, they are as high on Stafford as we are. No question there. Offensive line, 10th overall. Worthy of that ranking, and I think they can break into the top 8, top 7 in the league for sure. And then the running back unit, 11th in the league. Now, obviously, with Cam Akers going out for the season, that is going to tick that number back a little bit. I'd probably put him about 15th, 13th, 15th, somewhere in that ballpark. But definitely with the opportunity to improve if we see something out of one of these guys that we really don't know too much about, backing up Henderson. And then the receiver unit, dominant as all hell. 9th unit in the NFL right now, 9th ranked unit. I do believe that they can crack the top 5. The biggest question mark is Van Jefferson, and then the guy who's going to be backing up. Basically be that 4th guy on the depth chart. We don't know if it's going to be Deshaun, if Atwell has success in his first year, but I think the biggest thing here, if they want to stay ranked better than 10th, maybe even better than 9th, Van Jefferson's going to have to show out in his sophomore season for sure. So that does it for the positional rankings, courtesy of our friends over at Sharp Football Analysis for the offensive side of the ball. Now, let's move right on over. Defensive side of the ball. Partner, did you do the losses or the additions?
Yeah, I've got the defensive losses here.
Did the losses? Okay, perfect. I wanted to make sure. So go right on ahead, kick things off. Defensive side of the ball. Tell these kind folks and enlighten me as well.
Alrighty.
On the key losses for the Rams defense going into 2021.
Alrighty. So obviously this defense has a lot of stars. They didn't lose any stars, but they did lose a few guys that played some key roles for this Rams defense. Jon Johnson, the biggest name there. Safety, played 16 games for the Rams, combined for 105 tackles in 2020. It's going to be a tough loss to fill. They do have some guys on the roster that might be able to make up that slack, but that's a lot of tackles that they're going to have to make up for in that back half of that defense there. Michael Brockers on the front side of the defense, interior defensive line, played 15 games. Morgan Fox, another interior defensive lineman, played 16 games. Samson Ibukam, edge rusher, played 16 games as well. Troy Hill, cornerback, played 16 games. So, these names aren't household names, but they are guys that have some key roles or had some key roles the last couple of years on this defense. Let me know what they were able to do as far as filling these holes here, partner.
They did a little bit. Nothing too crazy to write home about, but they did a little bit. Something I want to enlighten you about before I do so. We got a little request to talk about the Washington football team and Bengals game tonight, as well as the Cardinals and Chiefs game tonight. I have made a couple of plays already myself. I know you haven't hammered anything quite yet, but we'll talk about that as promised. No doubt about it. We'll promise we'll talk about that. Save it. We'll just get through everything Rams, and then we'll talk about it right away, right before we get into your sidebar in the minutes.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan. All right, so as far as those key additions defensively for the Rams going into 2021, let me tell you about them. Glad you asked. They didn't add anybody via free agency or the trade market. It was just Stafford and Jackson that they added, only 2 offensive guys. They weren't too particularly aggressive in the draft defensively. They got 5 guys overall. In my mind, I don't know how much of an immediate impact these guys make. They might be some good depth adds now, but we could potentially write this off as not one of the best Rams draft classes in their history. I don't want to say it's bad by any means, but I also think that they could have done a lot better, and you might look back in 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and some of these guys are absolutely non-existent.
Right.
You don't even know their name. So why waste capital if it's like that? But let me tell you about him. Enough of my nonsense. They picked up Ernest Jones, linebacker out of South Carolina. Bobby Brown III, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M. Robert Rochelle, defensive back out of Central Arkansas. Ernest Brown IV, not to be confused with Ernest Jones or Ernest Brown III, second or first, defensive end out of Northwestern. Hey, our guy, right just on over across the street here. And Chris Garrett, linebacker out of Concordia St. Paul. Shout out Concordia. Huge pickup there for the young man. Obviously, I don't know what he'll do for the Rams, but that's absolutely huge coming from a small school like that. That's all they picked up. 5 guys. Obviously, two defensive linemen, and then the 1 defensive back, and then you got your 2 linebackers. So got a little bit of depth, but let me tell you about this 2020 defense, because I'm pretty excited to watch them once again. But before I do, let me tell you a little bit about the 2020 numbers, because unlike the offense, I think these numbers are going to stay pretty doggone the same, if not improve a little bit, with new DC Raheem Morris stepping in. I love him. I loved him in Atlanta, as a matter of fact. As weird as that is to sound.
That is very weird.
I mean, as you say that, he was top notch in Atlanta. I thought, obviously they blew a lot of leads, but I think he's a very solid coach, more defensive minded, and obviously very deserving of this DC spot. So they allowed opponents to, on average, either rushing or passing. They allowed them 4.7 yards per play. Opponent completion percentage was at 62.36%. Opponents converted on third down at a 35.74% clip, and opponents converted in the red zone at a 59.62% clip. I think the red zone stays about the same. Might improve just a little bit, maybe like 56 or 57, nothing crazy. I do think that third down conversion percentage stays right about there. I love them to keep it below sub 40% on third down, opponent third down conversion. But as far as this unit looks, I think it's going to be a lot of the same, my friends. Let me tell you a little bit about this 2021 defense. Defensive line, absolutely stacked. Terrell Lewis, only one and only. Aaron Donald, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Leonard Floyd rounding it out. The old Chicago Bear, Leonard Floyd, got picked up 1-year deal and then signed an extension with the Rams. They obviously have enough faith in him. Even though he wasn't the most dominant pass rusher, he still turned out 10.5 sacks. So, hey, good for you, Leonard. Way to sign the deal. Behind them, rounding out the front 7, Micah Kaiser and Kenny Young, projected first starters. Obviously have a little extra depth behind them now. And then the secondary, one of the most dominant ones in the league. You know the name, Jalen Ramsey. On the left side of him in the slot, David Long Jr., and then on the opposite side of those two gentlemen, Darius Williams. Then you got the deep safeties, the deep back guys, Taylor Rapp and Jordan Fuller. Both of those guys should have pretty successful seasons here. I love this secondary, man. I think that they are going to absolutely dominate many of the quarterbacks that they face. They have a very tough schedule, but I think that the secondary is really going to help them with that schedule, and not to mention this defensive line and the pressure that they can generate. I said it already. There is only one Aaron Donald, and it doesn't matter if you triple team him, quadruple team him. Fuck, you can put all 5 linemen on Aaron Donald, and he's still going to hit your quarterback. It doesn't matter.
No.
So I think they have plenty of success in that department as well. And like I said, I'm pretty confident in Raheem Morris to draw up some schemes, have some stuff in place that makes this Rams defense look absolutely terrific once again. There's my thoughts. What are you feeling for the 2021 Rams defense, partner?
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of what you're saying here. I think I could see it going back just a tiny bit, and I don't want it to sound like I'm talking shit about this defense, because I think they are going to be one of, if not among the conversation of best defensive units here. I'm just a little, I don't even want to say concerned, just those defensive losses that they had, Jon Johnson, some of these safeties, I'm not, like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm concerned about them. I just think they lost a little bit of depth, lost a little bit of firepower, so I think their ceiling went down just a pinch in my eyes at the very least. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a really solid unit, man. Having said all that about the safeties, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, these guys are going to make havoc for every quarterback, so it's going to make those safeties look pretty damn solid regardless. So, kind of like I'm saying, I think their ceiling just went down just a tiny little pinch, and they lost a little bit of depth here. I I'm a little less optimistic on Raheem Morris than you are. Like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit.
You're just
I know you're just very optimistic about him.
You got to answer to Aaron Donald and all those other scary guys.
Like I said, I don't want it to sound like I'm talking shit. I'm just pinch lower than you are on him.
Sure. Hey, no, I can totally understand that. I mean, with how good they've been, and especially in some of the luck statistics that are tracked on some of the stats that we utilize, they have been so doggone lucky over the course of the last 5 seasons, for crying out loud. But I think it continues, and I think we see dominance both sides of the ball here. Wrapping up the defense for you kind folks, joining us on episode number 107. Once again, well within the top 11, actually in the top 5, this defense. Front 7, 5th ranked unit in the NFL. More than deserving. I think they can get into the top 3, if not number 1 overall. Secondary, 5th ranked unit in the league per SFA. Again, I think that they can easily crack the top 3 here this year. And last but not least, their head coach, Sean McVay, comes in ranked as the 5th head coach in the NFL, and that is one hell of a segue to talk about this coaching staff. I told you just a little bit ago, and I'll tell you some more reasons why in the betting preview on some of the side bets, but I love Sean McVay for Coach of the Year. I think he finally has a quarterback that is going to make his offensive scheme look absolutely brilliant. No shade on Jared Goff, but it obviously just wasn't working out anymore, pal, and you were sent out of town for a reason.
I would say that's shade.
It's a little bit of shade. I apologize, but I believe Stafford definitely elevates that, and McVay is going to use him to a T.
Yep.
Little bit of concerns with the running game, but I think that is once again going to be handled by McVay, no problem. He has help by Kevin O'Connell coming back for his 2nd year. We'll definitely like to see some improvements on the offensive side of the ball from him coordinating, and then already talked about him, DC. Raheem Morris. I'm pretty high on Raheem Morris. I liked what I saw from him out of Atlanta. Obviously, the defensive-minded coach. They played rather well defensively from time to time once he took over after old Dan Quinn, I apologize. Dan Quinn hit the... I was going to say Dan Quinn and Campbell came out. Dan Quinn hit the old bricks. But either way, that's neither here nor there. Dan Quinn is now in Dallas as their DC, and Raheem Morris is here. So there you go. That's kind of how I'm feeling. I think that they have another successful year, and I really think that Sean McVay shows out and gets these guys into a deep playoff run. No question.
Yep. I can't echo too much else on that. I think this number 5 ranking for Sean McVay is going to be top 3, if not 1 or 2 come next year. And hey, they might have, this might be another scenario where Kevin O'Connell doesn't have to do too much, but because he's associated with Sean McVay, he's going to get himself another, a nice little coaching job next year because of how awesome this offense looks.
Definitely a nice little prediction there, my friend. Definitely a nice prediction. All right. Well, there it is. We talked about the offense, the defense, and the entire coaching staff. So if you missed any of it, sorry, we ain't going back now because that does it for the first segment, but it's going to be there all the way to and through the entire LA Rams season. However, time to keep this show, number 107, steaming down the tracks with the second segment of the day. We're diving into the schedule now, ladies and gentlemen, and we're breaking it all the way down, analyzing every bit of it. Once again, if you have been watching these and you see me breaking them down week by week, we'll not be breaking them down week by week on the schedule portion. We'll do that in the betting preview. That way we can just give you everything all at one shot. But that all being said, let's talk a little bit about our predictions for the LA Rams.
Alrighty.
Now, first things first, one key thing to note, I do suppose, is that their bye week is in week 11. Just so you are aware, if you're kind of keeping tally of that or anything as a fantasy player, as a NFL bettor, some teams to avoid on their bye week, stuff like that. Week 11 for the Rams. But as far as our predictions go, obviously they have the NFC West. You know that. They got the 6 games in their division. Their main 8 non-division games against the AFC South and the NFC North. Then their 3 remaining outside of that. 3 now, not just 2 this year. We got 17 full games. They got the Ravens, the Giants, and the Bucks. We'll kick things off up at the top, as we always do. NFC West. Partner, I got to tell you what. I first looked at the matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and thought, yeah, that should be 2 dubs. No problem. And then I forgot that the 49ers swept the Rams last year. So I just think that defense knows a lot. I think about the Rams. I think that's going to be a very defensive game
Yeah.
in both of them, and I think we see a split. So I'll go 1-1 there. I see 1-1 with the Seahawks too. They're always just so back and forth, but in my mind, they're going to need to get both. So early in the season, week 5 is a pick 'em. We'll talk about it. Week 15, Seahawks again. I think both are going to mean a lot. So I'll say 2-0 against the Seahawks and then the Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals are going to have enough defensive firepower to keep up with this offense. It's going to be some shootouts, but the Rams will ultimately edge them out in both. So I'm going 5-1 for the Rams in the NFC West, one way or another. Maybe not my prediction, but 5-1 in the NFC West.
Okay. I will also say 5-1. I am also giving them a split against the Niners. These teams, kind of like you mentioned, they just know each other so damn well. The coaching staffs know each other so damn well. McVay and Shanahan are friends. These matchups are always going to be tight. Both games should be very, very tight. I'm going to go with a nice clean sweep of both the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Rams took 2 out of 3, including a playoff matchup against the Seahawks. Held that offense of the Seahawks to 20 points or less. The one game they lost, the Rams lost 20-9. So if they do that again, which I think they can, you're telling me this Rams offense just needs to find a way to put up 21 points. I'm going to take the Rams in that case every single time. So I will take a sweep there. And then I won't add too much on the Cardinals. You said exactly what I would have said. That defense should hold the Cardinals just enough, and that Cardinals defense doesn't have enough. So give me 5-1 pretty confidently, I would say here.
All right, so same page in the division. Hey, should we hug it out again?
Maybe.
Like, what the hell? All
Maybe.
right, here we go. On the same page to start things off. Let's go to the AFC South. I don't think they have any problem in the AFC South whatsoever. I think the Colts matchup could be a little interesting. It is week 2 in Lucas Oil Stadium, so it could get a little tricky there. But I think ultimately, because they won't have Carson Wentz, that's what I'm banking on, is they're not going to have Carson Wentz until week 4, week 5, I'd imagine. So I'm going to give them a clean sweep of the AFC South, 4-0. I don't think anything flub up can happen outside of that. Yeah, I'll give them a clean sweep, 4-0 in the AFC South.
Yeah, I will go right there with you as well. If it was in Tennessee for that game against the Titans, I might side with the Titans, but it is in LA. And then, once again, if that Colts game was later in the season, maybe. But I will go a clean sweep. I don't think they'll have any problems with the Jaguars, and I know they ain't going to have any problems in Houston. So give me 4-0 as well.
All right, so same page again. On to the NFC North. All right. Week 1 against my Bears. If they start the Red Rifle, that's all but a fucking wrap. That's a Rams winner, no question. Lions winner. Vikes. I'll give them the win there too, for sure. Green Bay. Thinking of my pick, the image that keeps forming in my head is Jalen Ramsey slamming his hands and stomping his feet in Lambeau in the middle of the end zone because Tay and number 12 made him and that defense look so stupid in the red zone. I know where you're going as a homer, and I think they get it, but just because I don't want to be that overconfident in it, I think the Packers figure out a way to edge it out. That bad boy is in Lambeau, week 12.
Off their bye, though, that's my biggest concern.
Off their bye is the biggest concern, though, but it is also one of the hardest games on their schedule in terms of coverability and in terms of just winnability. So, oh, goodness gracious. I'm going to go 4-0.
Okay.
You convinced me.
You're going 4-0?
I'm going
okay.
4-0.
I mean, like I've said, it is, especially this matchup, it is going to be impossible for me to be unbiased. I could see the Rams taking this one, and then, me being me, I'll say the Packers get their lick back in the playoffs. But or maybe I'll say one way or another. Maybe I'll say 3-1. I'm low on the Vikings, but that one's in Minnesota. Or, because kind of one of my thoughts here is that I think this offense is going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a better offense even week 1 than it was last year. I think it's going to take a minute for it to be all systems go, full potential. So I don't want to, like you said, if Andy Dalton is week 1, I have no thought in my mind that the Bears can win that game. I do think the Bears defense can have some success, though, with coming into week 1 here. But maybe I'll say one way or another 3-1, even though in the back of my head I'm saying it's the Packers.
Yeah, I mean I'm iffy on the 4-0, but I kind of think 3-1 too. And I think that week 1 game could be
Or maybe Jared Goff revenge
classic
game?
Yeah, quite possibly. Probably not, though.
No, I think it'll be the opposite of that.
Classic, though, Bears week 1 on primetime football. It's always like a 10-7
Yeah,
finish. Like,
yeah.
It never goes above 2 touchdowns for crying out
Yeah.
loud. So
But if it's Andy Dalton, no thanks.
I don't. Yeah, I'm good. I don't know. So per Mags 3-1. Me iffy on the 4-0.
Okay.
I leaning 4-0.
Okay.
Maybe 3-1. Remaining 3 outside of that: Ravens, Giants, Bucks. The easy one. Not gonna have any problem with the NFC-ish Giants.
No.
Take that one easy. The Ravens is going to be interesting. That one is late season, week 17 in M&T Bank Stadium. That's in Baltimore, if you didn't know. That's another hard one. That's one of their hardest games for them to cover. They're getting 3 points on the road there. So I think that they can get the job done, but to close out the season, I don't know. They might want to get the win over the 49ers more than they want the Ravens, because they could very well lose the away game to the 49ers in week 10, and they need that 49ers win to have a solid playoff run. So I'll say 2-1, one way or the other. Either they lose to the Bucks or the Ravens. I don't know which one is going to be more of a defensive matchup.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks is going to be more that defensive matchup, and I think the Ravens is going to be that shootout where it just kind of coin flip, a last-second field goal. One way or another, I think they go 2-1 in the remaining 3.
Okay. Yeah, these ones are tough for me. That Ravens game, I really just don't know what to expect. That is such an interesting matchup that we just haven't seen, that Ravens offensive style against this Rams defense. I really don't know what to expect. So, and that Bucks game in week 3, kind of like I said, I think the Rams could come out a little bit slower than what they will be by the end of the season. And the Rams actually beat the Bucks in week 11 last year, 27-24. Maybe the Bucks want their lick back, but I'm leaning 2-1, but I'm gonna go ahead and say 1-2 just because I gave them so many other wins on the schedule. And like you said, they might want that week 18 game more than they need week 17. So I will say 1-2 out of this 3 here.
All right, so let me you
With the win coming against the Giants.
goofed me up there, so let me make sure I had 9 and 3 is 12 and 13 and 4. All right, so if you are with me, and even then I could see him definitely going 3-1 in the NFC North. So even then, if you're with me, 15-2, potentially 14-3. Yikes. If you're with Mags, 13-4 straight up, no questions. We'll keep him in that 3-1 category, the NFC North for sure. So that all of those numbers go over their current 10.5 set win total. So we got a lot to talk about once again. I don't think it's too lofty for these Rams to expect that, but we'll obviously have plenty to talk about here once we get into the betting preview. Some final things to wrap up the schedule breakdown before we do get into the full betting preview. Just some final thoughts as far as the rest and prep inequality that we always like to share with you guys. The guys over at SFA break this down excellently. It's one of the key trends and stats that we use from them. Going into 2021, the Rams play 2 opponents that have over a week to prepare for them, and they play 2 opponents that have less than a week to prepare for them. So obviously negated, nothing crazy to worry about there. Very, very solid in the advantage department when it comes to rest. They only play 1 team where they're on a rest disadvantage, and then they play 3 teams when they're on a rest advantage. Mm-hmm. So looks good for them in that department. Only play 1 game that's on a short week and on the road, and then they only play 1 game that is off a road Sunday night or Monday night football game. So across the board, they look to be primed. They look to be able to get those high win and have a very, very successful winning season. Maybe only have anywhere from 2 to 4 losses. That only helps their case there as well. Last but certainly not least, everything. No, actually, out of all that, we covered everything we really needed to cover because we'll cover everything out in the betting preview here. So that does it. Full schedule breakdown. There's our predictions. If you're with Mags, you're thinking 13-4. You're with me, maybe a little bit higher, 15-2, 14-3, somewhere in that ballpark. But let's see how they're going to do betting wise here and shift gears. This is a daily sports gambling show. We're not just analysts. At the end of the day, we're handicappers. That's what we do. Sports betting analysts, my friend. So, all that being said, let's get into what we really know about the entire betting preview for the Los Angeles Rams into 2021. But before we dive into 2021, we got to talk a little bit about 2020. Now, I think these numbers are going to improve once again because of the improvements of the offensive line, or not the offense in general. So, don't read too much into these, but I think that you're going to need to definitely have them in the back of your mind when it comes to this upcoming season,
Right.
because they are trends for a reason. In 2020, they were favored by an average of 3.6 points. In 2021, it's come down just a little bit, down to 3.2. They're favored in 13 games this year and only dogs in 3, and have one pick'em against the Seahawks in Week 5. Now, as far as 2020 goes, they had an ATS record of 9-7 with a 10-6 straight up record, 6-5 ATS as a favorite, and 3-2 ATS as a dog. At home in the brand new SoFi Stadium, 5-3 ATS with a 6-2 record as a home favorite. They were 4-3 against the number and 1-0 against the number as a home dog. On the road, 4-4 straight up and ATS record as a road dog. They were 2-2, so obviously as a road favorite, they were also 2-2 against the number. Nothing crazy to look at there. I think we see some improvements on both sides of the ball. Well, not both sides of the ball, both sides of the split, rather, home and away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does concern me a little bit that away they were 500 in both categories with there being no fans. But I think that you have to kind of attribute a lot of that to Jared Goff.
Right.
He did have a lot of those deer in the headlights looks that I mentioned earlier on the road.
Mm-hmm.
That all being said, let's go to the game totals here. The over-under stats and trends for the 2020 LA Rams. They had an average line of 46.8, and that is ticked up 1/10 of a decimal point to 46.9 average game total in 2021. But back to 2020, they were an under team. They were 4-12 over-under overall. They were 8-0 to the under at home. 4-4 over-under on the road. They were 11-1 to the under as a favorite and 5-1 to the over as a dog. Those favorites and underdog splits do include playoffs, but I just wanted to show you because it does back up even more trends. I don't know why they were an over team as an underdog and why they were an under team as a favorite. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Maybe in those dog spots, those were those shootout spots. The books obviously priced him right as a dog. They needed to stick in maybe those +3, +2.5 kind of spreads, those shootouts. Maybe that's what did him for him as a dog. Obviously, as a favorite, there weren't many spreads you saw that Jared Goff was able to cover as a favorite, some of those big ones especially. So maybe those were some of the lower scoring games. They were just kind of back and forth defense. Maybe something to think about with them as a favorite when it's that disparaging, even though with some of the adjustments they have made. I mean, 11-1 to the under as a favorite, 5-1 to the over as a dog. Definitely something you got to think about there.
Yeah, one thing I take away, take it as you will. Looks like their matchup might have played into it, but their defense at home was fucking phenomenal last year. So especially if you add in some fans, not that the LA Rams fan base over in LA is as big as some of these other fan bases, but with a little bit of crowd noise, that offense or that defense at home might be even scarier this year.
Absolutely, I definitely agree with you. And then last but certainly not least, you love a teaser. I love a teaser. I hope you love a teaser too. Sitting on your couch on Sunday mornings, watching maybe the fantasy show, maybe watching NFL, building one of them bad boys together. Well, not too bad of a look if you want to take the old Rams. 6 and 7 point teasers. They were 11-5 and 12-5. So unless you're getting them through some real key numbers, be careful there. But 10-point teasers, 13-2. So as I always like to say, if you're doing those 10-point teasers, you need that extra leg to get it up to plus money. The Rams are definitely one of those teams for you to take a look at. So there you go. There you have it. All of the 2020 ATS over-under and teaser trends from the 2020 LA Rams. Let's get back into the present, into 2021. Enough of the past because we are a forward-looking show here and we provide value. We don't always look in the past.
No.
So time to get back into the future, 2021. What lies ahead for the LA Rams weekly betting schedule? Well, I'm so glad you asked because, again, I am here to tell you all about that. Now, we skipped over it in the schedule. Go week by week here, tell you the spreads, some that might potentially be jumping out at me as I'm talking about them, and then kick it over to my partner, let him tell you guys a little bit of some of the value he's finding there as well. So, The Rams playing in SoFi Stadium against my Bears in week 1. They are laying 7 points right now, and if Andy Dalton starts, I could see that ticking up to 10.
Yep.
In week 2, they're getting a 1.5 in Lucas Oil Stadium against the Colts.
Up to -3 for the Rams. I just checked.
Up to -3 for the Rams. All right, so it has now flipped. Week 3, and some of these lines may have moved. This was obviously at the time of publication few weeks back, about a month or so, maybe a month and a half. So then they play in week 3 the Buccaneers. They come in laying a point. That is also in SoFi Stadium. Then in week 4 they play the Cardinals, and they are getting 4.5 points on that one as well. Or they're giving 4.5 points. And then in week 5 they are a virtual pick'em. It is in Seattle. Sorry, hold on one second. I apologize.
Some mic checks. Sorry, that might have been me.
Yeah, definitely knocked out the headphones, but that's all right, Bob. All right, we're back in business.
Well,
here we go.
While we got that pause, it is up to -1 in week 5.
All right, so then in week 6, they play the Giants. They're laying 3.5 points against them. That is an away game. Then in week 7, they get Detroit coming home. They are laying 12 points there. Then in week 8, they're laying 8.5 to Houston. So obviously those are the two big ones. I would say definitely take them because I don't think those teams have a shot in hell. But then week 9, they are laying 5.5 against Tennessee. That one is played in SoFi Stadium. Week 10, they're laying 3 points against the 49ers. That's the first meeting of the season, and that one is played in San Francisco. And then obviously they have their bye in week 11. I already told you about that. Then come out of the bye to play the Packers. They're laying 1 point on the road in Lambeau. And then they're laying 9.5 points in week 13 against the Jags. Week 14, laying 2.5 against the Cardinals. Week 15, laying 4 points against the Seahawks. In week 16, they are giving 2.5 points to the Vikings on the road, and then getting 3 points in week 17 against the Ravens on the road once again. I already told you that. And then I already told you too, they close out their season in week 18, laying 3 points against the 49ers. So overall, I think they're going to have plenty of success covering these small ones. I like to see how that one flipped against the Colts. I think if by some chance that they don't win week 1, which I hate to say that as a Bears fan, but I think they do, they will definitely win in week 2, in my opinion. They'll come out hot. But some of these, the pick 'em against Seattle, I like that a lot. I don't understand why the Giants is only -3.5.
Neither do I.
Give me all of that. I would imagine that's had to have ticked up by now.
Yeah.
And then definitely their underdog spreads too. I'm not too afraid of the +3s. If they do tick down to like +2.5, +1.5, definitely got to think about it, because I do think they could potentially get the loss to the 49ers in week 10, lost to the Ravens week 17. And those are those dog spreads that I'm talking about. So definitely some stuff to think about, but I definitely think the Rams have a lot more value than they really provided last year as far as against the number.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about the game totals a little bit here in a minute. But partner, as far as anything jumping off the page, what are you feeling betting wise?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be hammering in a lot of their spreads at home. That's not to say I don't think they're going to be good on the road. I think they might have a couple spots where it's a little trickier on the road. This defense I mentioned at home was fantastic. Not that they were bad on the road. They just didn't travel quite as well as how they played at home. So there might be a few away spreads that I'll be staying away from. As you mentioned, that one against the Giants, it's weird that is so low. I think they absolutely destroy the Giants, and then those week 7 and 8 spreads might go up over 2 touchdowns because, both those teams are also going to be looking terrible. And I think it might not even be a bad spot to hammer it in, because that Lions game is going to be, I joked that it was going to be a Jared Goff revenge game. That is going to be a Matt Stafford. You destroyed my career. I am going to destroy you, even if it doesn't matter right now. Aside from that, later on in the season, I'm not sure what we're going to see. Week 1, obviously, we'll talk about in a second. But I like what you said, week 2. As long as it doesn't go over -3, I'll be hammering in the Rams at Lucas Oil against the Colts. And then week 3, I might be interested in the Bucks, but we'll see how they look. Both teams look first 2 weeks there.
Sure enough. Appreciate your opinions there, partner. Already told you about their average line for their game totals in 2021. Nothing crazy to write home about. Does worry me that they were 4-12 over/under overall last year, so it's going to be kind of a question mark. I want to see what we see from this team. I think that defense obviously keeps these games under a lot of the time, but is this offense going to put up 28, 35 points a game when we saw back in 2018 when they made their Super Bowl run? I can't answer that right now. I got to see exactly if Matt Stafford in this offense lives up to my expectations at this point in time, but I definitely think that they do. So that does it. Weekly betting lines, weekly stuff, nothing to really write home about as far as the game totals. Some stuff there we both had opinions on from the spreads. Partner, I hate to ask you, and please be kind to my boys, but way too early week 1 pick. The Chicago Bears are welcomed into SoFi Stadium by today's team of the day, the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are currently laying 7 points. Are you hammering that bad boy in? Are you thinking this is going to be one of the classic Bears first week games of the regular season, and you're taking those 7 points with the Bears?
I don't know. I'm not going to be as mean. I'm not going to say that by any means. But that's 7 points. If it was, a lower spread, I'd be hammering in the Rams. But like I said, I think it's going to be a better offense, even still in week 1 than we saw last year. But I don't think they'll be firing on all cylinders quite yet. If it's Andy Dalton, I'll be a lot more scared. And obviously, I think that line will certainly move one way or another, whoever is the quarterback. So I might be interested in the Bears because I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I'll probably hammer in the under, whatever that number is, because I think it'll be first one to 20 points, honestly. So as long as that over-under ain't lower than 40, I might be hammering in the Bears and the under.
I don't even necessarily know that they make it to 40 points.
That's fair. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
I'm thinking it makes it to 17 points. I think this is like maybe even 20 points. This is a little 13-7 finish here. And I think that's why you're going to see that 7 points. I think this might finish 13-7. The Bears cover it at 6. And I think the Bears getting the points are definitely the value play here. I don't think that you should hammer them in on the money line by any means. I don't, as much as I hate, I don't think my Bearzos get it done in week 1.
The more I hear it, and the more I'm just picturing, like I'm visualizing Andy Dalton under center. I'm just like, no, this is going to be a massacre.
Stop! I have already pushed that out of my head. Quit bringing
it's
that.
It's his time, though, man.
Stop.
It's his time.
Stop!
It's his time.
Enough. We're talking about the Rams. Enough. So we already talked about it. The Rams season win total. That's our way too early week 1 picks. There you go. Season win total. Damn it. 10.5 wins right now for the LA Rams. Now, partner, we both went over the 10.5 total on both of our predictions.
Sure did.
The over 10.5 right now is set at plus 120, and the under 10.5 is at minus 140. Now, in my mind, if I rattled off all of those wins, if I even decided to change it up a little bit and was a little more conservative in some spots, how can I not take the over at plus money? But it does concern me a little bit. I'm not too certain that they get over, but they're going to have to get over if they're going to do what I think they're going to do in the playoffs and if they're going to win this division. So I would say I'm going to take the over 10.5, but I'm a little tentative because it just feels trappy. And one other thing, found this out per Warren Sharp, the Rams win total, this is exact verbatim. Rams win total of 10.5 is tied for the 4th highest in the league. Historically, betting the over on a double-digit win total has not been a good bet. Excluding Tom Brady and the Patriots, absolute wagons to the over of their season win total, double-digit win totals have only gone over at a rate of 45.6%. So, thank you once again, Warren, for some of your key stats and stuff. That's the only thing that worried me, because I read that a few days back, and I said, shit. Well, they got to get over 10.5 if they want to get to the playoffs and do what I think they're going to do, but
that's surprising to me.
That looms really, 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 really large.
It does.
And then you talk about Matt Stafford never making the playoffs and never winning a playoff game, and yikesy kapikesy. I don't know if I'm going to buy into it. I think that might be also why that over is set at plus money.
It might be.
Let the entire public hammer in this under. I'm going to stick firm. I'm going over 10.5 wins, even if they get 11. Some of those wins that we were a little more iffy on, over 10.5 plus 120 for me. Where are you lying?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm just trying to think of what the possible path would be. I think the Seahawks and Cardinals would have to be even better than we're imagining them to be, like Super Bowl contending type teams, to where they split both of those games and go like 3-3 within the division, and maybe they stumble out of the gates, kind of like I'm saying, even more than I'm saying, as far as not firing on all cylinders on offense quite yet. That's really the path, and I still just kind of don't really see it. I'm not that high on the Seahawks and Cardinals from a full team perspective, so I'm happily going over the 10.5 with some plus money. I'm nervous about it just because it seems trappy, but I'm interested in over 11.5 at plus 210, my man. I mean, you mentioned the number about double-digit totals not having a ton of success, but I personally have had some success the last couple of years with these double-digit totals.
Yeah.
So I think it's just certain teams, and maybe there's certain teams that are trappy, but they're a 10-6 team last year, and you give me a quarterback that's what I believe to be top 10 easily, if not top 5 quarterback in the league compared to like the 20th ranked quarterback. Give me the over, no question. Give me the over 11.5 at plus 210, man. Give it to me.
All right. Mags is taking the alternate total of over 11.5 plus 210. That's actually very surprising. Yeah, that seems like great value. I think that all of the public is just going to buy too much into Stafford never winning a playoff game, never really having a whole bunch of success with the Lions, and they're going to just look too much into last season's numbers. But there's plenty of changes that are going to just completely cross those out.
I mean, you mentioned it. The Lions, there was only one offensive coach that he had for a couple of years, Jim Caldwell, and he had a very positive record with Caldwell. All of his other coaches,
let him have it.
I don't want to die.
Let him fucking have it.
I don't want to like skim through this chapter to try and find the exact number, but those coaches that were the defensive coaches, it's a brutal record. I feel. Oh, it's right here. 38, 62, and 1 with the defensive coaches. The one with Jim Caldwell was 36 and 28. Obviously, I think there's one bad season sprinkled in, but we all know the Lions roster had some brutal rosters in there, and Matt Stafford elevated him. So you give me a very solid roster, and what many people to believe as one of the greatest offensive minds of our generation. Give me the over, man. Give it to me.
All right. Well, that's enough of that because we are obviously all over the over and think it has immense amount of value. Now, you should also think it has immense amount of value because I do believe they have to get over 10.5 to make the playoffs. Yep. And the books think they make the playoffs pretty convincingly. Yes, right now is at minus 178, and no, miss the playoffs is at plus 144. I wouldn't suggest trying to find any value in them missing the playoffs. I think you mentioned it very early on in the show, partner, but I think we do see a Packers-Rams shootout here in the playoffs. Okay. I think both teams make a deep playoff. I am actually both extremely high. Those would be my two favorites right now in the NFC, unless I see something else absolutely crazy to start the season.
For sure.
So there's the odds on that. Now, as far as the Division Conference and Super Bowl 56 this year, in case you didn't know, the Rams are actually second in the NFC West right now to win it outright. They're at plus 200 odds, and right below them, just barely, plus 190 odds, the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, everybody and their dogs are extremely high on the 49ers. They've seen a few plays from Trey Lance. Oh my goodness. Oh my gracious. It's about to be a complete remake over See You Later, Jimmy G. I don't know how much I buy into it. I really just don't know how much I buy into it. There's plenty, and this is no shade, but there's plenty of guys who've had success, but you have to remember he's coming from a section or a 1AA school, right? So it's there's not many of those guys in the league, and those guys in the league that end up being hugely successful from those schools are outliers. Particularly right now, a quarterback that's struggling really, 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 really well, and I don't really want to put, or really bad, I don't want to put Trey Lance in this category this early, but Carson Wentz. It's just kind of how it's rolled out in the past. I don't want to put that on Trey Lance, but they do come from the same school. Am I?
You're correct.
I am correct. So yeah, North Dakota State University. So I don't know really how I am on the 49ers. You can look all over the internet right now and see this sharp, that sharp, whatever sharp that I really think are a little dull of saying that the 49ers are just going to be the team. They're winning the Super Bowl this year. Trey Lance is the savior to all their problems. I just don't think it's happening this year, my friends. I really, really don't. And I think the Rams at plus 200 are the value play to make. I think they take it home 5-1, easy money. I think the 49ers find a way to flub up and end up going 4-2 or even 3-3. I hate to say that, but I think they find a way to do it just with how that offense is built right now. Great with your quarterback, not so great with the wide receivers, not so great with the running back room.
Okay. If you're making a play, I think the Rams is the play to make. I would say either the over 10.5 or over 11.5 has more value because they could win 12 games and still not win the division necessarily.
Sure.
And because there's, I think the Rams and the Niners are going to be better than the Seahawks and the Cardinals, but there's a world in which either of those two teams finds something and really elevates to the next level and wins 13, 14 games. Seems a little crazy, but it's possible. These 4 teams in this division are really good. So I will say that the value is more lying with the over win totals here.
All right. How about conference or Super Bowl? As far as the conference goes, they are 4th overall right now. NFC winner at plus 700. And then Super Bowl 56 plus 1,500. 15-1 odds to win that bad boy this year. Don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that. Obviously, if they take care of the NFC West, they should be able to take care. I think that they make a Super Bowl run. I think this is the year that Sean McVay repeats 2018, and they make a Super Bowl run this year. So I think that Super Bowl 56 victory at plus 1,500 is more than worth a look. Sean McVay deserves it at anybody in the league. He has just been kind of stiffed by quarterback play, if I'm giving my humble opinion. So I think this is the year he goes back, and I think that has a lot of value. But once again, much like my partner, I think the over 11.5, over 10.5 is the best value play we've talked about so far. How about some side bets,
Sure.
my friend? Because we gave you all the value, the weekly value. We gave you our best value as far as some future plays. What about some additional future plays, side bets we're looking at before the season starts? Well, don't know how much value it has, but if he does have a hell of a start to the season and McVay makes Matthew Stafford look as good as I think he will, Stafford to win MVP right now is 17-1. Right around that ballpark is sometimes where you like to see those future plays. So I'm not saying run to the window, hammer it in.
Right.
But, I mean, you already know my prediction, too. I already took Aaron Rodgers to repeat. But, if the Rams do what I think they're going to do and Stafford is going to be a big majority of that, I think it could potentially happen, but I'm not running to the window in any capacity.
Right.
I would say avoid it.
Yeah, I'm not running
to fun play.
Yeah, I'm not running into it either. But I would say, well, I think what you're trying to say is the path is there for him.
Sure.
The path is there. But
Wide
I think
the F open.
Yeah, but I think there's just too many other guys that might have a huge season for you to think that this is a nice play to be throwing tons of money, maybe a tiny little sprinkle, but no thanks. I'll pass on it.
Sure, absolutely. Now, maybe a little additional value on Stafford, though, if you were kind of bummed out that we don't like him for MVP. Potentially a little bit of value on most regular season passing touchdowns. Now, my partner said, I don't know about that when we were talking about this before the show. He said, he's only gone over 30 twice. I said, maybe this is the 3rd year that he does it. Maybe this is the year he gets over 40 for the first time. Maybe this is the year he flirts with 50 because he has an offense that he can actually do a lot with. Now, he's had good offenses in the past, but just none as electric as what I think we're going to see this year. So he very well could be in the conversation, and at plus 1,300 odds, I am not too bearish on that. I would say maybe worth a little bit of a sprinkle if you want a little bit of a spread, a little bit of a sweat, much like the MVP. If they come out and shock the fucking world and Matt Stafford looks like a god among men on that gridiron, those are very wide open. And then also most passing yards. Obviously, we see a lot from those short out routes. Cooper Kupp, obviously Jefferson will be doing that. Robert Woods can rip the cover off the defense. Most passing yards for Stafford's at plus 1,400 right now. I don't hate those odds either. Again, I'm not running to the window on these, but I think they could be a very fun season-long sweat with how I think this Rams team is going to shake out.
I don't hate either of these. You know, I kind of push back a little bit. I actually think that
push on back, pal.
I think the MVP would have more value than either of these two, honestly.
Really?
Like, if he's up over 40 touchdowns, he's going to be right in that MVP conversation.
MVP, that's true.
And there's a few guys that I think are going to have some huge seasons that, you know, maybe their team won't be as good. So if Matt Stafford's going over 40 touchdowns, that Rams record is going to be looking pretty fucking good. So like I said, I'm not running to the window with either of these or any of these, but I would say the MVP might have a little bit more value than these other two.
I don't know. I just had a premonition. Matt Stafford, 2021, throws for 4,444 yards and 44 touchdowns. The first time any stat like that has ever been put up in the NFL.
Well,
There's my premonition. Call me. I mean, I don't know, like a 3-3-3-3 and like a 33 touchdown, like all fours. I see 4,444.
I thought you meant like nobody's
touchdown.
had that type of volume before. That's what I thought you meant.
No. Hey, call me crazy now, but I've said it time and time again on this show. Feel free to quote me later, bitches. All right.
Matt Stafford, 20 interceptions, 20 touchdowns.
2,020 yards, 2,020 yards. There you go. There you have it. Defensive player of the year. Obviously, he will always be in the conversation. I don't even have to say his name without it already being on the tip of your tongue. Aaron Donald. He is at plus 500, the outright favorite. I've already told you my favorite partner. I don't really know where you lean, but I think you do lean with me. Chase Young at plus 1,000, plus 1,100, really where you're finding him right now. No shade at Aaron Donald.
No.
He would eat me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Sunday through Sunday for the next 8 months, maybe next 8 years. I wouldn't hold a damn candle to that specimen of a human being. But I just don't think DPOY is his title this year. I think the young man, Chase Young, is going to shock the hell out of some people, going to improve upon those 7.5 sacks last year, turn those into double-digit sacks, be in the number one sacks category, and then have a bunch of other statistics.
Sure.
So I think I would say stay the hell away.
Yeah. I mean, you can hammer this in and feel, pretty okay about it. I am mostly with you. I am very interested in Chase Young and also Myles Garrett on top of that as well. Plain and simple, though, Aaron Donald is the best defensive player year in and year out. That doesn't mean he's always going to be the defensive player of the year. You see it in all types of leagues. There's just a fatigue that comes to giving these guys the award year over year.
Yeah, yep.
And Aaron Donald's in that category at this point of the year. He's really, or in this point of his career, he's really going to have to put up historic numbers, which he is very capable of doing. But it's going to be tough for him. So I'm lying with you in either Chase Young or Myles Garrett range.
All right, well, there you go. And then one final side bet. This one's pretty much mine. This one I wrote about in my NFL Honors blog. If you guys haven't read that, you don't know what I'm talking about, go to talkingtheline.com. Check out our blogs. Not only my blogs, RMags has plenty of other stuff in there as well. But I gave my predictions. I looked back into last year, some predictions for last year's winners for 2021, and then I gave predictions for the 2021 NFL Honors winners. So you can get all my stuff there. But I predicted Coach of the Year to be Sean McVay. It's nerve-wracking. It's going to be a little bit of a sweat, but you just said it, partner. The path is there.
Sure.
If he turns around Matt Stafford's career, if he gets these boys in a position where it looks like they're going to be making the Super Bowl, just like 2018, if this team even glimmers as the 2018 Los Angeles Rams, that's all but his. Now, there are a few teams that could potentially get it done, or other guys. Brandon Staley, talked about him yesterday. He's the outright favorite, but it's going to take a lot. There was obviously already production there. He's going to have to do a lot. Obviously, maybe Arthur Smith. I've been thinking this in my mind a lot lately. If Arthur Smith can turn around the Falcons franchise, I mean, we've already talked about it. They have blown leads at a historical rate over the course of the last 3 years. And if Arthur Smith can come in and Dean Pease turn around that defense and offense, Arthur Smith could be in the running as well, especially being a head coach and combo OC. But I love McVay to get these boys back to the Super Bowl. I love him to turn around Matt Stafford's career. I love him to make Kevin O'Connell look like a genius. I love him to give Raheem Morris pointers here and there when he needs it, and maybe even turn him into a potential head coach sometime in the future again. I could go on, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I've already hammered it in, and I'm taking Sean McVay, Coach of the Year.
I'm talking myself into it, man. If they win the division and they're the first or second seed in the NFC, I think the only person who, yesterday, Brandon Staley, if they find a way, I don't think it's going to happen, if they find a way to win the division over the Chiefs, I think that award is going to be Staley's. Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which, like we said, I don't really think that's going to happen. I think Staley's going to be in that conversation. But, even if, let's say, the Packers are the 1 seed and the Rams are the 2 seed, I still think McVay gets it over Matt LaFleur because Matt LaFleur has won 13 games the last 2 years and hasn't really been in that conversation at the end of the year. So I'm talking myself into it. I'll be honest with you. At plus 1,800, I might actually hammer that in, my friends. I might.
Hey,
you got me in there.
Getting it more to a might now. I've already hammered it in. You can check.
I'll be so mad though if I hammer him in instead of Staley, and Staley is the one.
Gets it. I will too, because that's the only other place I would
maybe
really
both
lie.
Of them. Or maybe hammer both of them,
or maybe Arthur Smith too, just for a little extra sprinkle. Because literally, if he can turn around that Falcons franchise, it's all but his.
Sure.
Just like Stefanski last year. That is the same fucking path for crying out loud. So. That's my thoughts, my humble betting thoughts, what I know, how I can read lines, what I think might be valuable, what Mags might think will be valuable. That's the entire betting preview. All right, my friends, one final thing we have to get to. The fourth and final segment of the day, quite possibly our favorite segment of the day because it's our first love. Way before we had legalized sports gambling available at our fingertips, we had fantasy football at our fingertips. If you didn't know, me and this joker over here have been in the same fantasy league for the better part of a decade. We have turned it into a dynasty league in 2021, so now we have even more takes and more analysis that we have to go through and dish out. I cannot wait. I am so excited, and it has opened up an entirely new door to fantasy football for me. If you can't tell, I'm a fantasy nerd. I don't know what more I can tell you. My partner's right there on the same wavelength as me. We've been probably playing fantasy football since before high school, and that is
me. Oh yeah,
that is north of 10 years now for sure. So, yeah, we think we got some pretty good stuff we say from time to time when it comes to fantasy. So, obviously, being a great fantasy player, you have to come up with good names. You got to come up with a good team name, or you got to come up with maybe a good little something when you're talking about a segment. You see it all the way through the fantasy football community. Well, hey, we coined our own fantasy football segment, and you best believe it's time for that. Time to wrap up the LA Rams with the fourth and final segment of the day with Start, Stash, or Pass, our best fantasy advice for the LA Rams. All right, my friends. First things first, most important position on the field in football. Maybe not always in fantasy football, but I think it's going to be very important here this year. Quarterback room, partner, let me have it. We have the aforementioned Matt Stafford and backed up by John Wolford. Will you be starting, stashing, or passing on these fellas all together in the upcoming 2021 NFL fantasy football season?
First pick overall, John Wolford. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not going to waste a second on that breath and that name. But Matt Stafford, I will absolutely take him. I'm very curious to see where he's going in drafts. He was not the highest ranked quarterback in fantasy last year. Obviously, a night and day type situation here. So I'll absolutely be starting him. I won't reach for him, but if he's right in my range where I'm taking quarterbacks, absolutely. I'll feel pretty damn solid if I got Matt Stafford at my quarterback spot.
I do declare that he will probably fall to the range that me and you target quarterbacks
you think so?
in. I really do believe so. I don't think people are going to be that high on him. That's my opinion. I don't know where his ADP is at right now, but in my opinion, I think people are going to pass on him for a while, and I think you can get him at a fire sale price.
Yeah.
And he is going to produce QB1 numbers for you week in and week out. I don't even think that you have to worry about him not really having rushing production. And as a matter of fact, I think that McVay allows him to have more rushing production. I think he opens up that other depth of Stafford's game that we haven't been able to see in a lot of years. So definitely a start for me. Start for Mags, QB1, Matt Stafford. Maybe potentially, I wouldn't say worth a handcuff early, but keep your eye on him in case anything happens to the old dog Stafford. Wolford stepped up when Goff went out for a couple games last year. He is not a guy that you should not shake a stick at if you are in a pinch.
I'm shaking a stick, sorry.
Shake a stick.
I'm shaking a stick.
If you're in a pinch, in a bad quarterback pinch, that's the only reason. He would be one of those guys I would say, hey, holy shit, we need some points somehow. Running backs. Obviously, no Cam Akers this year. He was going to be one of my top 10 running backs, no question in my mind. Now there's a gaping hole.
Yep.
With him gone, you enter Darrell Henderson. Henderson, in my mind, finishes RB2 right around. I think he has potential to crack top 20 RBs in fantasy this year. It's going to take a lot, and this offensive line is going to need to produce for them, but I definitely believe they do. And I think that with the addition of Stafford, with some of the things that McVay will be able to do with PA and PSM, I think that it's going to be all right for this running back room. And I think that Henderson will average 10 to 15 points a game, somewhere in that ballpark, and then maybe he'll rifle off a 25, 30-point game for you here or there. So I would draft Henderson as my RB2. I would love to get my hands on him for sure. I think he has another successful year. And then as far as all these other guys, right now, without us knowing who is exactly the number 2 depth chart guy right now, I'm going to pass on them all together. Definitely keep your ear to the streets, though, as far as this Rams running back room, because they are pretty damn successful year over year when it comes to fantasy. So, partner, where are you landing for these guys?
Very similar to you. I will love having Henderson as long as he is the bona fide starter. I'm kind of like cautiously starting him. Kind of what you're saying. There's nobody to handcuff in the draft, but at some point, one of these guys is going to emerge, and kind of what we've seen from Henderson over the last few years, he might have some nice starts, or he might be the guy coming into the season, and then by a few weeks into the season, McVay says, oh, well, what's this guy got going on here? Let me get this guy 20 carries or 10 carries and split time with Henderson. So that's really my biggest concern, is that somebody is going to emerge and hawk or vulture some of these carries away from him. So I'm not overdrafting him. If someone could tell me, hey, Henderson's going to get 20 carries a game all season long, hell yeah, I'll overdraft him.
Sign me up.
But aside from that, I'm cautiously starting him.
Yeah, so we're on the same there with Henderson. And obviously, John, you are too. Shout out again, John, jumping in the live chat today. We appreciate that. Honestly, I saw that too, that you mentioned Rondell Moore. I don't know if you were popping in at the time when we first started. We actually started with the Arizona Cardinals, and we are both, I might even be higher on Rondell Moore than Mags. I am so high on Rondell Moore, especially, I think, much like you, I think he is going to fall in some of the later rounds. I think both of these guys, Henderson and Moore, are going to be some potential flex steals that will produce RB2, wide receiver 2 numbers for you, no question. So, hey, thanks for bringing that up. Big time, guys, for your fantasy roster this year. What a segue, John, into the wide receiver room. How about that nonsense there? Wide receiver value from me. Robert Woods. I'll put him back in the wide receiver 1 category. He struggled just a little bit because of Goff, I do believe, and I'll put him back firmly in the wide receiver 1 category. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 2. I don't think he's going to have those wide receiver 3 flex downside weeks this year. I think it's going to be pretty consistent, 10 to 15 points. Maybe if he rifles off more than one touchdown, it'll get better, and he'll have that wide receiver 1 upside. But I think you can feel very comfortable drafting him wide receiver 2. I would definitely say temper your expectations if you're dependent on him to be your wide receiver 1. Then as far as the rest of the guys, I was so damn high from a fantasy perspective on Van Jefferson last year, and I saved this for this point because I think we really, really see some improvement from him in his sophomore year. McVay would not be projecting him to be the 3rd starting guy right now if he didn't have some level of faith in him and his improvement over the course of offseason and training camp so far. I think he's worth an add if the previous 2 mentioned guys, Woods and Kupp, are gone, and you see Van Jefferson, it comes around to your time, definitely worthy of a flex spot from week to week. You might have to be careful depending on some of the matchups, but then again, that could be sticking my foot in my mouth, and he could be completely a different new wide receiver this 2021 season. So those would be the guys that I would target. I would also, potentially for Dynasty, and maybe even this season, depending on what happens, Tutu Atwell. People are overlooking him so far because, hey, I'm a short guy too. I'm only 5'8", and you all can pound sand if you're
taller than 5'8", aren't you?
No, I'm 5'8", dog. I'm shorter than all shit. But that's okay. So is Tyreek Cohen, and that motherfucker. Hey.
See, you know what? Fantasy player?
Yeah, from time to time. But you know what? He was actually hurt last year, so pound sand on that too. But you know what? It ain't the size of the dog in a fire. It's the size of the fire in the dog. Don't let me tell you twice. All right. Don't let me tell you twice. But that all being said,
It's all yours, dude.
I think Tutu Atwell might have. I think he might have some success. I think very quite possibly he could be a solid dynasty piece 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't have success on the Rams, somebody's going to pick him up, and they're going to utilize him in the correct fashion. So I think he's definitely worth a look as well. Thoughts on the WR room, partner?
Yeah, you heard me earlier in the show. I think Robert Woods is going to be the biggest benefactor of these offensive changes here. So I think he was number 13 wide receiver last year. I think he cracks that top 10. And like partner said, going to be a wide receiver 1 for you unless you've got another one of these stud wide receivers. Not taking him in the first round with Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, that range. Maybe not even the second round, but
Sure.
Third round and on, give me Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp, I kind of like you said, I would like him on my team. I would like him as a wide receiver too. I'm interested to see how he's used here with Matt Stafford. I think he's going to have success. One of the reasons he was so successful with Goff is that he was a security blanket for Goff, and yep. I think it'll be the same scenario here, but Goff, it was a lot of cases where he was kind of losing confidence downfield, a lot of pressure, and hey, there's Cooper Kupp. I don't need to try and push the ball down the field, whereas Matt Stafford might be a little more aggressive, should be a little more aggressive, but I think he still has got some value, so I would love to have Cooper Kupp. Echo your statements on Van Jefferson. I really don't know what we see, but I think he's at least worth a spot on your roster. And I'll echo what you said about Tutu Atwell in Dynasty. I mentioned earlier. I think it's going to be with this Rams team. I think McVay, at some point here in these next couple of years, is going to find a way to use him. If it isn't in the passing game every single, on a down-to-down basis, maybe he'll do some sweep action or some, interesting gadget-type plays. So I will like him down the road, but him and Jackson, I'll stay away from right out of the gates here in 2021.
Yeah, definitely. And I've tried to convince myself that the old dog Deshaun Jackson is worth a fantasy ad over the last few years, and it's just been injury city. I mean, if you want to change your name, your fantasy team name to ACL Ventura Pup Detective like me, go right ahead. I mean, you can be a pup detective all season long, but I suggest that you just leave them on alone and you stick with some of these other big names. And if you can't get your hands on them, look elsewhere. Just because they're in this Rams offense, don't overreach for Atwell and Jackson at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end. Looks like to be only one guy right now in the competition. That's Tyler Higbee. They obviously do have a few more guys on the depth chart, but nobody that you're really going to write home about outside of maybe Johnny Munt. McVay did decide to bring in Johnny Munt last year in some capacities here or there, and definitely saw some good production. But this is all but Tyler Higbee's job. I believe that he is going to be in the top 10 tight ends this year. Obviously, we talked about it. After you get out of the top 5, it is just a severe drop-off. And I think with Gerald Everett out of the way now, I think Higbee is going to be pretty damn primed to have double-digit fantasy points almost every doggone week in my mind. If not 8 or 9, getting you right there. Little known, well, maybe not a little known fact. I don't know. Either way, Tyler Higbee was one of McVay's first selections, so he was one of his guys.
Sure.
He was in love with Higbee at tight end. So I think now 3rd official year. I do believe he was.
I'm not sure about
4th official year. Or maybe he was drafted in 2018. Either way. McVay's super high on him. Now he's obviously TE1. So I will draft the hell out of Tyler Higbee. If it's time for me to pick up a tight end and he's sitting there and there's some other guys that I really am not that high on, I will take Tyler Higbee, no question about it.
I think I'm right there with you. I'm a little more nervous about it. I'm nervous that McVay, like some of these other tight ends, is he's going to sprinkle them in when you're kind of least expecting it from a fantasy perspective. I do agree with you. I think he's going to be a lot closer to top 10, if not in top 10. And I think he's going to be a lot more consistent. He's going to be a lot more reliable than he was last year when Gerald Everett was in town, because he really didn't know who was going to have the better week by week between those two guys. So I think it is a lot more consistent, no question about it. I'm still a little tentative about him, but I will start him. I will start him nonetheless.
All right. Well, there you go. Tight end, another start. Kickers, because they're people too. We don't leave them out. They still fill positions. They got Matt Gay this year, and I'm not very high on him at all.
No?
No, not really. I've avoided him in fantasy pretty much. I mean, he'll give you a week here or there, but I would avoid him altogether. I wouldn't say I'm going to put him on my team, even though he does get onto this Rams team. He's no Greg the Leg. I'm gonna pass on him this time around.
I'll take a flyer on him. He came in. I don't remember what the full situation was. I was looking at his game log. He played the last half of the season last year and put up some solid numbers. So I'll take the guy. What about it? I'll take him.
Hey, all right. Well,
what of it?
Maybe a little bit of value. Who knows? Hey, obviously, if he's joining the Rams, he's got to have some type of value. They're not just going to pick up some stew bum off the corner. Last but certainly not least, defense. Not a whole lot you need to say here. Definitely worth a draft spot. If you get your hands on them, pick up the Rams. I think they finish well within the top 5 in fantasy points this year. If not, top 7, top 8 at the worst. Yeah, definitely worth a spot. I'm starting them.
Okay. I will absolutely start them, of course. They were number 1 defense last year. I think that might fall down a little bit this year just because that offense is going to be a little higher scoring, so the opposing team is going to be passing a lot more in my eyes the way I see it. So they might give up a little more points per game. So from a fantasy perspective, I think it's going to be a little less desirable. But much like you, I still think it's going to be right around top 5. What you got?
Our man John got Adams, Kelsey, and Stafford.
Wow, okay.
You're going to put up 150 points a week with those boys alone. Good grief. Look out, world. You're about to fucking destroy teams this year. All right. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said there on the defense for sure. So there you go, my friends. Everything fantasy-wise from the TTL crew for the Los Angeles Rams in start, stash, or pass. That officially does it. Wow. On the money, 1 minute before 11:30.
How about that?
Let's send these LA Rams into their 2021 season the only way we know how. What do you say, partner?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, in that case, to Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, and new DC, Raheem Morris, we wished you the best of luck in this upcoming NFL season. To all of the players on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and the entire Los Angeles Rams franchise playing out of the beautiful SoFi Stadium, we hope you have a terrific year. We look forward to seeing you in the playoffs. And as always, Godspeed. All right, my friends, that does it. Officially, the entire season preview for the LA Rams. Holy smokes, man. We're clipping right along here.
Right along.
18th in the books. All right, well, we did have a fan request, so you best believe we're going to get to that request. You out your mind. If you
Washington defense number 1, John, I believe you. Yep, I'll take that action.
You're damn straight. So let's get into preseason week 2. Kicked off last night with the fucking drubbing of the Eagles by the Patriots. 35-point fucking drubbing. I took the fucking over 38. And
with the assumption that Jalen Hurts was going to be around. So
I mean, hey, we get a field goal and we push that bad boy out.
That's what we get for betting preseason.
Give me a break and a half. Whatever. Good degenerates over here. So I actually already hammered in plays today on the preseason. Now this is not because I took the over yesterday and the under hit.
Right.
But the under has been an absolute wagon so far.
It sure
now
has.
15-3 in the preseason. First one that I like the most is the under 41, or now it might have moved around. No, still at 41. So
yep.
Under 41 in the Chiefs and Cardinals. 2 things why I really like this. The Cardinals, 7 out of their last 8 preseason games have not cracked 41 points.
Okay.
Not even close. Not sure about the Chiefs, but the Cardinals were the ones that really jumped off the board there, me. And then this is a little bit sketchy to me. This kind of shows me that the public is kind of backing this, and the wise guys might be a little bit on that side as well. But I think this is a majority of just public money. The over is getting 51% of bets and 59% of money. So nothing crazy, nothing that you need to be saying, oh, the sharps are all over that. I think that's a public play and a half, and I'm going to be siding with the under here tonight, under 41. Not to mention a little bit of line movement. This line opened at 43, and it has since dropped down to that 41. I don't think 41 is low enough. Obviously, you see that movement, and then there's going to be a lot of buyback in on the over at 41. But I don't even think we have to worry about getting the hook. I think this stays way under 41 here today. Matter of fact, the Cardinals finished 16-19. They put up 19 points,
right.
And the Kansas City Chiefs finished 19-16, and they put up 19 points.
Right.
Both these teams won their game. Even if that happens, 19-19, or an extra field goal, which I highly doubt. That's why they set it right at 41. That would be 41 points. I don't think that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a little bit more low scoring than we anticipate. And I think with the announcement that maybe Andy Reid hinting at that the starters, the starters, Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, could be getting more playing time here in week 2 and dusting the old dust off of the old training wheels and getting ready to get back into full swing. I think the public's going to hear that and run to the over. And I'm going to go ahead and fade that, and I'm going to take the under 41. Just a little bit too high for me. And then I am also going to take the under 35 points in the Bengals and Washington game. That also is just a little bit too high for me with these two teams playing. The Bengals were actually able to have a lot of success last week against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers only put up 14 points, and the Bengals actually won that game. So their defense is not the problem. I think that's what's going to be solid. And speaking of defense, the Washington fucking football team is on the field tonight, led by, actually, no, I don't even want to see Chase Young on the field. I want him bubble wrapped behind the facility, watching the game from some remote location on a TV, so he has no chance of getting in that game. I don't want to see him in the preseason anymore. But the rest of that defense, I think, is absolutely electric, and I think that they have a terrific game tonight. I think this is going to be defense, and Bengals versus the football team. Once again, I'm going to take the under 35, just so you know, so you have a little bit of extra trends back behind that. Under right now, it's pretty dead even split, but this has kind of been the key number for those unders. 51% of the bets, 50% of the money. So this one's kind of
that one's a toss.
A toss up here, but I definitely like it. And this has moved up, and there is some buyback in on that under. It opened at 33.5, ticked up to 35. I think it finishes right around that 33 mark, 32, 31, somewhere right in there. It might be a little bit of a sweat to start her out, but I think it's going to be fine. The defenses will bow up. So. Yep. Those are my two best bets of the day. I like under in both games. If I was leaning one side or the other on a spread, if you absolutely need a spread play, if I was leaning one way or the other, I would say the football team at the -5.5, and then I also would say the Chiefs at the -3, just because the Chiefs have shown time and time again that they can get it done with regardless of who is on the field, and I don't know if Arizona's clicking on all cylinders yet. I don't know if they're clicking yet.
Yeah, I'm staying away from those spreads. I hammered in both unders with you. So I like those. I think I can't echo too much else for what you said. I think it stays under. I don't know if it's going to be a wagon this entire preseason, but until it's not, I'm going to be keeping hammering these unders in here. I don't think like that 35-0. That 35-0. The Patriots, I think, are an anomaly for that. And these teams, you already went through what they did last week. Offensively, I think it's pretty similar, and defensively, it might be even better. So I am pretty. I don't want to say I'm pretty confident, but I'm fairly decently confident here that it's going to be under.
Yeah, and also, I don't know how much you can buy into some of the line movement on these spreads. With the totals, it's kind of a dead giveaway here or there, but these spreads yesterday, the Pats opened up at -2.5.
Right.
At closing, they were getting a 1.5. They were 1.5 dogs. It had flipped. There was very minimal bet with very large amount of money on the Eagles -1.5 after it flipped, and they got beat by 35 points.
Right.
They didn't even put up a field goal, for crying out loud. So I don't know how much you can buy the steam and that action on the spreads early here in the preseason. Once we get to the season, for sure, and we'll definitely key you guys in on that. But for now, man, I don't think that you can start running to the window with these overs. I think you got to play the trend. 15-3 is 15-3 for a reason. You might pepper in an over here or there. It's going to be a rough beat. You're going to say son of a bitch, but I'm heavy on both unders here today.
Yep, I can't add too much else on
And then, hey, just while you sons of guns are here, why the hell not? I'm not going to break them down. I'm not going to tell you all the reason why like we typically would. And, hey, this ERA and this pitcher on the road and these splits. It is fun doing that. I miss that. I cannot wait to get back to my full betting analyst role for you guys. I mean, that's our love. That's what we do. So if you do want to check out all of these plays yourself, and there are a few differing ones from depending on where you look them, you can check them out on the talkingtheline.com website. You can see both of our plays. You can also follow us on the Action app. I am at cash_with_Colt. Riley is at RMags in all caps. And then once we do get back to the regular betting show, you can find all of our daily best bets from the pod at Talking the Line. And then also we're working with another app we're about to tell you guys about here very, very shortly. Just tying up some loose ends, and they are just about to roll out some of their new features, and we are going to be one of the first beta testers of those beta testers.
Can't wait.
Beta testers of this new app. So I am super excited. They actually have a few prolific names in the NBA.
Sure.
I won't tell you those names, but a couple of guys are on board here, and holy shit, I cannot wait to be able to tell you guys about that. And it's a whole new way for you guys to connect with us and track our plays. So MLB for me today, my friends. I got a pretty hefty load here. Taking under 10.5 in the Twins Yanks.
I'm right there with you on that one.
Taking -1.5 Braves over the Orioles. I don't have much faith in Keegan Aiken, regardless of what Max Fried comes out and does. Give me that -1.5. It's been bouncing up and down all morning. -130 to -150. I locked it in at -140. Give me all of that. They get that win easy. Detroit, I'm taking on the run line against the Blue Jays. I just think everybody's going to be backing a lot of Robbie Ray, and I think we see just a little bit of a struggle bus session here to start the game and potentially even to close it for this bullpen. The Blue Jays really haven't been that team that they need to be, as evidenced from their odds right now in the AL East. That all being said, taking Detroit first 5 run line +1.5. I got a first 5. I'm getting a run and a half. I was able to get that on FanDuel Sportsbook. Might have moved to the 0.5 now, but I got it at 1.5. Also taking the Tigers on the full game +1.5. That is at +120 when I locked it in. So I like those two. Also very confused, and per some key ratings that I see, had this game rated out 6-2 in favor of the Los Angeles Angels over the Cleveland Indians. Okay. So I am getting wild on the Angels because they are the underdogs, my friends. I am taking Angels first 5 run line +0.5 -135. Angels full game money line, and then with confidence, but only a half unit sprinkle, Los Angeles Angels -1.5.
All right, damn.
+172 odds on that.
All right.
So I just did a half unit on that, but I'm very confident on the first 5 and the full game money line.
Okay.
Then I like half a unit on this one just because of the line movement that I saw. I'm a little bit worried with it. Red Sox versus Rangers. Chris Sale taking the mound, and then you got Dane Dunning taking the mound for the Rangers. Everybody and their dogs, and me personally, first thing I thought, Red Sox -1.5, no question. Saw some line movement, saw some shit, saw some other sharps that I really respect taking the Rangers. So I'm not going to take their money line, but I'll take their +1.5 on the run line. That's at +135, so you're still getting good odds. Put a half unit on that bad boy. White Sox money line, you're welcome. Love them here today against Tampa Bay. Michael Wacha on the mound. I told you my unders under 35, under 41 for the 2 football games. And then wrapping up my MLB slate, I actually got 6 more for you. This one is actually all coming out of one game. The Mariners, just as much as I like the Angels, I think the Astros came back yesterday, and you can obviously fade me on this one if you want, but I love the Mariners here in this spot. The Astros to me are kind of falling apart at the seams, and I think Kikuchi has just enough for them. And I don't want to say by any means that McCullers struggles, but I think McCullers is going to be in for a rude awakening with some of these Seattle bats. So I got Seattle +1.5 for the full game, -120. I also like their first 5 run line +0.5 at +110. And then I put a little half unit sprinkle on their money line just in case that +1.5 wasn't good enough, because you're not getting the plus money Pauly odds on that. So if they do pull off the dub, we got a little half unit sprinkle on there too. Closing out my card, I like Oakland. First 5 +0.5 going. You got James Caprielian going up against Alex Wood. Alex Wood's kind of been doing some bonehead things in the first 5 innings, and Caprielian in Oakland has been a fucking wagon in the first 5 innings all year long. And then I'm a little concerned about this. Honestly, this play for me is fading Blake Snell and less about backing Matt Moore or any of the Phillies pitchers for that opinion.
Not to mention the Padres offense has been a little weak lately.
They've been pretty doggone weak. week. So I'm going to side with the Phillies here. I think that the public perception, and the books have this price pretty accurately for the public perception, is going to be all on the pods, the Friars here today. So I'm going to take the Phillies, another first five that I was able to find plus 1.5 on FanDuel. You're getting plus 1.5, minus 140.
I'm going to have to hop on that one with you.
Typically, you get the minus 130, minus 140 for the half, and you're getting that at plus 1.5. So I like that for the first five. And then I like the full game plus 1.5, full game run line. I think that they get the outright victory, but this one is more of a I'm fading Blake Snell, so I'm going to take the 1.5 backing. So
what a card!
I know I just told
gracious,
you a shitload,
man.
but I got a card and a half here today. Some of these that I really like. So again, if you missed any of those, you can check them on the Action app.
Yep.
You can go to talkingtheline.com. Soon, new app as well. That if you don't use either one of those, and maybe you live off in the woods somewhere. Well, if you live off in the woods somewhere and you don't have internet, I don't know how in the fuck you'd be watching this show.
Right.
So I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. That don't make no sense.
Right. I've only got 3 MLB plays.
Whoa.
Typically about this time after
Whoa.
we wrap up. When I get a second, I add some player props. That's my sweet spot for MLB. So I typically will have at least 1 or 2 here in the afternoons. I do have my White Sox as well. You got to take that with a grain of salt, but my partner's on it, so that's usually a good sign in my case. Against the Rays, they're heating up. They're heating up a little bit. Took 3 out of 4 from the A's, getting everybody back. Luis Robert is heating the hell up. Eloy's heating up.
I had the game rated 5-2 in
White
favor
Sox?
of the White
Okay,
Sox.
okay.
So I was going to take the 1.5, but it is a little too risky for me.
Okay.
So
So yeah, I have that one. I had the same under Minnesota and the Yankees. I like that one a lot. And then I'm fading your Cubs here. First game of the day, Royals over the Cubs. Tight. I believe it's very close to a minus 105, minus 110 line.
yeah, 120.
Cubs showed a little life this week, but so did the Royals. So I like them.
Yeah, they did. They might have.
They blew it
yesterday.
but other than that,
But boy, oh boy, did they look good. And yeah, you're hearing it from the number one Cubs fan of the Talking the Line Sports Media crew.
And I didn't look at his last spot. It's been bad. I don't know if he figured it out last one or not. No. So that was a lot of it. That was a lot of it.
The home run ball is a problem, and Kansas City has home run hitters. And oh, wouldn't you know, we just have some perfect air density in the Windy City today, and wind happens to be blowing out at the Federal Landmark.
Yeah.
And this game's played at the Federal Landmark. So
I was watching the White Sox game. They're like, maybe it was the White Sox game, maybe it was the Cubs, but their analysis is like hard hitting weather, and that's the type of day we got here in the Windy City once again.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Hadn't been able to dish out anything on the pod for a while.
I like it.
And hey, John, you sparked all of it. Thanks to you for getting some plays out there to all the people. Now you guys got all types of value out there floating around. All right. That does it. You got our plays. You got our preseason week 2 predictions. You got the LA Rams full season preview. You missed any of it. That's why they make this a recordable thing. So you can just go back later and check it on out. But for now, let's put a little bit of whipped cream on top of the proverbial sundae that has been the Talking the Line podcast, episode number 107, with Mr. RMags Sidebar. So that being said, partner, what is burning on your brain, melting on your heart, festering on your soul that you have been dying to get out to the kind folks that joined us on the aforementioned episode 107 of the TTL pod on this beautiful Friday, August 20th, 2021?
Alrighty, so Mr. Matt Stafford, I ask you, career ends today. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Fuck. I knew you'd ask me something like this.
Maybe I'll give these and help you. No? Okay, so I think he helps himself. I think he would be 16th all-time total passing yards, 45,109, 4th on active, has a solid year, or healthy year, I should say. It doesn't matter how well he does. If he's healthy all year, he should move into the top 12. 16th in touchdowns with 282. Now, on the grand scheme of things, in some of these lists that are folding out, that doesn't sound like a ton, but he's number 16 and he's 4th active. Another healthy season should move him to 12th. Couple or 3 should get him in that top 10 range. The only person that is ahead of him on this touchdown list, at least, that isn't a Hall of Famer or won't be, is Carson Palmer at 294 touchdowns. So with the numbers, I think he is. I think you can chalk up all the lack of postseason appearances and success to him being on the Lions. And I think the guy is a Hall of Famer. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, these numbers are inflated compared to a lot of NFL history, but I think he is, and now that he's on this team, I think after another solid year or two, I think that's a definite yes. I can't agree. I can't disagree that it's on the fence, but I think with these numbers, I think he gets himself in.
So that is my exact reason as to why he will not. At this point, it is not the Hall of Good. It is not the Hall of Great. It is not the Hall of Numbers. It is the Hall of Fame. It is not even the Hall of really, really, really damn awesome. It is the Hall of Fame. David. Oh shit. Who's the Hall of Fame director?
David Baker.
David Baker. David Baker says that time and time and time again. And they
the
have
big
to
guy
make,
you're talking about. Yeah, big guy.
They have to make those hard decisions. And this, you saw my face as soon as you asked me that question. It is a very hard decision. Now, right now, my answer is no. But give me this season. Give me one playoff victory with the LA Rams. Give me some type of playoff success. If they get to the Super Bowl and he looks like a complete different man, and these inflated numbers was because of what the Detroit Lions have been for the last decade, yes.
Yeah.
He's a second ballot Hall of Famer. Not a first ballot, but if he can get to the top, or close to the top, even if he can sniff the mountaintop in the Super Bowl, then it's no doubt in my mind. He just has to get there, and with those inflated numbers, cool, but just because everybody knows your name doesn't mean you're a Hall of Famer.
Sure.
That's just humble opinion. Now, hey, I will never even, my face won't even ever be a thought in the bust maker's mind of the Hall of Fame in Canton. So I have no fucking leg to even stand on here. But that's my humble opinion.
Okay. I think he, like you said, I don't think he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer if he ended today. I do think he would get in because, like I said, I think he could chalk a lot of it up to the Lions. Now, one of my own personal criteria is if when my favorite team is going up against you, no matter how good you are or how bad your team is, not how good you are, how good your team is or how bad your team is, am I concerned about you changing this game? And the answer is kind of yes. Now, I will say at the very end of seasons, there was a lot of times where it was Aaron Rodgers versus Matt Stafford, and Aaron Rodgers won that game or won that situation just about every time, if not every single time. But for, the simple fact is he is a guy that you worry about, and I put him in the category there. But if he wins the Super Bowl this year, gets to the Super Bowl, wins an MVP, I think he elevates to a first ballot Hall of Famer, let alone get in at all. So
definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, we got windy as all hell here. We gave the plays. We gave everything. We got shit to do. We got stuff to get through. Outside of that, make sure you visit the link tree in the description if you haven't already. Check out the website. Pristine, glistening, all types of content and stuff and rabbit holes you can find on there. Make sure if you miss any of them, check out our Best Bets Action Network app, also on the talkingtheline.com, and then a new update here for you shortly. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate you guys, and just cannot tell you how much we just love you guys. I mean, you guys are just the shit, giving us your time, your energy, your hard-earned time you share with us. So at the bare minimum, I got to pay it back a little bit to you guys, So we won't get out of here without a little bit of extra inspiration and motivation to get us all through the weekend. So it's time to put a cherry on top of the proverbial sundae that is the TTL podcast with my Motivation Minutes. All right. So closing out today, just wanted to give you guys a little something to think about here as you go into the weekend. And this is not actually where my thoughts were originally, and I stumbled upon this quote doing a little extra research, if you will, this morning as I was kind of building some thoughts, and then everything kind of shifted to this. I want you guys to think about this as you go over your weekend, and it's kind of a quote about the weekend, but then it also entails two parts, and I'll break down those two parts here in a second. But the quote is, "The only reason we ask other people how their weekend was is so we can tell them about our own weekends." For those of you that didn't hear that in the back, the only reason we ask other people how their weekend was is so we can tell them about our own weekend. Are you one of those people? I can't answer that question for you, but I'm sure you can answer it pretty readily. And maybe you're being truthful with yourself, maybe you're not. But the first thing I wanted you guys to think about over the course of this weekend and interactions you go through and as you go into next week, are you actually saying things like that? Like, how's your weekend? How you doing? How is the family?
Right.
Are you saying those things because you're supposed to? It's the nice thing to do. Is that why you're doing that? Or do you mean that from the bottom of your heart? When you look at somebody and ask them, how are you? Do you mean that? Or do you just have to say that because it would just be awkward if you didn't say anything or you didn't have anything to say at all? Now, that's one thing I want you to think about. That's the first part. Think about what you're saying. Think about what others, or think about when you're asking something, am I just doing this to do this? Am I just talking to talk? Or is what I'm saying actually worthwhile? And most specifically, in those small little things, how are you? How was your weekend? How is the family? Mean that. Don't just say that and turn off your ears, because listening is an art form. And there's a very, very, very distinct difference between hearing and listening. And if you don't know the difference, you might be in the wrong category. Listening takes work. And if you're one of those people that just asks a question because you're supposed to and then turns off the ears, I hate to tell you, but you're on the wrong side of the fence. And I suggest you think about making a change. And the second part to this is the flip side of the coin. Not are you saying things or are you asking people, but when somebody asks you those things, when somebody asks you, how was your weekend? How do you view that? Do you just say good? Oh, great. When's the last time you were you were walking by somebody's, oh, how you doing? Good. And that's it. Because it's the thing we're supposed to do. Do you know why I say spectacular every single time? Funny enough, it ain't because I'm fucking spectacular every single time. More often than not, I have to shape my lips to get spectacular out of my mouth most of the time. Most of the time, I'm not doing real spectacular. But you know what? It changes somebody's day. It makes somebody else think. And it lets somebody else know that, hey, I actually care about what I'm saying. And I actually care about if you have something back to say to me. So think about what you're saying. Get off autopilot. Shock somebody's world. Change their day. When you're standing in line for the cashier at Walgreens tomorrow, getting your early morning supplies for the weekend, whatever the case might be, and that cashier looks at you and says, hey, how you doing today? Instead of going, good, and into your phone or into your wallet, say, I'm doing spectacular. How are you today? Look them in the eyes. Care about them as another human being. We're humming beans on this floating rock that I already talked about this week. So maybe, just maybe, think about what you're saying. Think about listening. Think about what you're asking people. Are you asking people about their weekend just so you can tell them about yours? Are you asking people about their weekend because you truly care and want to know if there's anything or area that you could potentially help in? I'll let you be the answer and be the judge of that. I can't give you the answer to that. But one thing I can tell you is that this is a very severe problem in our society. And one of the only ways that we're going to start seeing things turn around, and if you want to see things turn around in your small circle, get off autopilot. Start listening. And when somebody asks you, don't just say good because you're supposed to. Spectacular, terrific. Use your own word. You don't have to use mine. Use your own word. Change their mind, change their thought, change their day. Mean what you say. Say what you mean, and listen. So I'll leave you with the quote once again. Let you go down some rabbit holes this weekend and maybe come out on the other side into next week an entirely new version of yourself. The only reason we ask other people how their weekend was is so we can tell them about our own weekend. What person do you find yourself being? And that does it for my motivation minutes of the day.
Solid, my man. Good weekend lesson as you're about to socialize with a handful of people. Not only that, but don't be the guy that's even, you could take it even further as far as some negative people. I can't tell how many cashiers I've walked through that say, just living the dream. And it's like, oh, you're clearly not living the dream, guy. What's going on over there?
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people have used those things, those positive words, and now turn them into a negative thing in today's society.
Living the dream.
And maybe you be the challenge to that. Maybe the next time a cashier says, just live in the dream. Really, man? What's going on? How are you? Shock his fucking world.
Yeah.
Care about him as a human being for 5 seconds. Don't worry about everything that's going on in your world for 15 seconds. Maybe he just needed an ear. Maybe something just happened in his life. He don't have anybody he can talk to, and you just happen to be the person that said, let me hear. 15 seconds. Ain't gonna kill you. And I promise you, when you utilize your time like that, it's not going to be seconds you're going to want back on your deathbed. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
So that officially does it, my friends. My motivation minutes of the day. We've kept you crazy folks here way too long, longer than we usually have. We got into picks. Old Jon razzing us up, trying to get us to give out picks to everybody, and we ended up doing it all of our full cards. So there's that. We just got all LA Rams season preview. We talked about Matt Stafford potentially being a Hall of Famer. Gave you my motivation minutes. We talked about the Talking the Line website. Everything in between. You know everything. There's nothing else I need to say here, and it's almost noon. It's time for lunch, ladies and gentlemen. So y'all go on and get ready for lunch. Get ready for a weekend. But first, let us send you on about your way the only way we know how. Ladies and gentlemen, degenerates, gamblers, fans of the NFL Shield, fantasy football players, NFL bettors, anyone I may have left out, far and wide, from myself and Mags, thank you so much for choosing to stop by the TTL pod today. Thank you for all of your support and all of your following. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it, and it means the world to us from the bottom of our hearts. In case you missed it, make sure you go check out our best bets of the day, because at the end of the day, we are a daily sports gambling show. Even though we're doing NFL special editions, we're still cashing tickets. So please go check those out. So very soon you'll be able to say some things with us shortly. But before we do that, we hope you have a spectacular rest of your Friday, unless you have any other plans. A terrific beginning to your weekend. We will see you back around the bend on Monday for episode number 108, the 19th NFL Special Edition, the Miami Dolphins. Baby. I am on it today, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you so much.
Ooh, your shirt would have been perfect for Monday.
It would have.
Anyways.
Maybe we'll pull it out again. Who knows? But probably not. Probably not. Either way, thank you guys so much again. Have a spectacular weekend. Unless you have any other plans, be sure to check out our best bets of the day so you too can say with us, let's cash some tickets.